For 40 years, Thomas had lived with the land. Each morning, before the mist had fully lifted from the rolling hills, he would step outside his small stone cottage, leaning slightly on his weathered walking stick. The air was always cool, heavy with silence, and the world seemed to move at a pace only he understood. He knew every inch of those fields, the stubborn patches of soil, the gentle slopes where his sheep grazed, the quiet rhythm of seasons passing without announcement. Thomas had long accepted something most men spend their lives resisting. Nature does not negotiate. It does not reward effort with fairness nor punish neglect with intention. It simply exists, moving as it always has, untouched by human desire. And so he worked, not with urgency, not with anxiety, but with steady, deliberate care. On a cold morning, the sky began to change. Dark clouds gathered slowly at first, like a distant thought forming at the edge of the mind. The wind grew sharper, carrying with it a warning that could not be ignored. Thomas noticed, of course, he always noticed. But there was no panic in him, no rush of fear, only awareness. By afternoon, the storm had arrived. Rain fell hard and unforgiving, drenching the hills, turning the earth heavy and unsteady beneath his boots. The nearby river, once calm and narrow, began to swell. Thomas moved quickly, not frantically, but with purpose. He secured what he could, guided his sheep towards safer ground, reinforced parts of the barn that had long needed attention. His hands moved with precision. His breath remained steady. But by nightfall, the storm had taken control. The river broke its boundaries, spilling into the lower fields. Water spread like an unstoppable force, drowning crops, tearing through the work of months in a matter of hours. The land that once fed him now lay beneath a silent, rising flood. By morning, the storm had passed. The sky was pale, almost indifferent, as if nothing had happened. But everything had changed. The fields were submerged. The crops gone. The damage was undeniable. Thomas stood at the edge of it all, his boots sinking slightly into the wet ground, his eyes fixed on the water that had claimed what was once his. And yet there was no despair on his face, no anger, no visible grief, only stillness. Because Thomas understood something most never truly grasp. His hands, those were his to command. His actions, his effort, his choices, those belonged to him. He had used them well. He had done what he could. But the river, the storm, the sky itself, they were never his. To rage against them would be to fight something that was never within his reach. To wish the flood had not come would change nothing. The past had already taken its place. And so he did not waste himself on what could not be undone. Instead, he took a slow breath, tightened his grip on the walking stick, and turned away from the flooded fields. There was still work to be done. The stone wall along the higher ground had collapsed in places. Some of the sheep had wandered too far. The barn, though standing, needed repair. These things, these small, tangible pieces of reality, were still within his control. So Thomas began again. Stone by stone, he rebuilt what had fallen. Step by step, he guided what remained back to safety. There was no dramatic urgency in his movements, no trace of bitterness slowing him down. Only quiet, methodical progress. The flood had taken his crops, but it had not taken him. Days passed, and the mist slowly returned to the hills, softer now, less heavy. Life did not restore itself all at once, nor did Thomas expect it to. He simply continued, focused not on what had been lost, but on what could still be shaped. One evening, as the sun dipped low behind the distant hills, he stood once more, looking over his land. It was not the same, but it was enough. Because Thomas had never measured his life by what happened to him, only by how he chose to respond. And in that choice, quiet, steady, unshaken, he found something the storm could never wash away. Control was never about the world outside. It was always about the man within.